Welcome back to the complete guide to Zitadel. In this video, we will be taking a look at how to connect our Zitadel instance to a GitHub OAuth application, allowing us to log into our Zitadel instance using our GitHub credentials. This tutorial is not specific to GitHub in any way other than the fact that I will be using GitHub, but you can make this work for any OpenID Connect provider, whether that be Google, Microsoft, Okta, Auth0, anything you like. So let's get straight to the demo and get hands on the keyboard. I'll see you in a second. So here we are again, back at our Zitadel console. As always, we click on projects, we have our Raw Code Academy project, we click on it, nothing has changed from the previous video. However, and just like the previous video, we're going to jump straight in by going to the default settings, where we could pop down and add an identity provider here. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on this right now because we will be doing B2B multi-tenant Zitadel videos later on in this course. But by adding an identity provider as a default setting, this will be inherited by all organizations. The other approach would be to click on Organizations and modify the login and access for the Raw Code Academy organization. We can click on Identity Providers, we can click on GitHub, and now we need to add a client ID and secret. Now I have our GitHub set up here where I am logged in as myself on my own personal developer settings where I can add a new OAuth application. You can do this at the organization level if you wish. We can click New OAuth app, and I will call this Zitadel Demo, and I'm just going to say this lives at zitadel.com. It's asking us for the callback URL, and if we come back here, we can copy that from the Zitadel setup screen, like so. We register the application, we grab our client ID, we paste it, and then we generate a new client secret. You will only see this once, so make sure you store it somewhere safe. Now we could click create and save that, but you will want to modify the scope list, potentially, depending on what information from the GitHub user your application needs. Now the default setup for working with GitHub is not profile or email at all. You can search for GitHub user scopes OAuth. Where here you'll see that we have access to read user and user email right in the middle of the screen. So we'll add read user and user email. You can give this a name, so we'll call this GitHub demo. This is what it will be called on the button when we try to register or log in with our account. Now, in order to allow anyone to register, you will have to allow automatic creation of new accounts. And if you wish, you can have it update every time the user relogs in. Just depends whether you want to sync their GitHub username to your Zitadel system. You can even choose to merge accounts or at least consolidate them when they have the same username or same email. Typically, I check for the same email existing in the system and say that that is safe to merge. And then we click create and save, and we're done. We click the activate button here, and that should be us. We can head over to the login page for the Zitadel console. And now we have the option to register or log in with GitHub demo. So we can click register, select GitHub demo, where you can log in with my passkey and authorize Zitadel demo. We can see the only information it's going to get from my account is just to understand my email address and my profile information, to which I can say, yes, I'm happy with this. It will redirect to our URL. And we are presented with a external user not found. Do you want to link or create? Now, this is very specific to GitHub, and I'll get into why in just a moment. But for now, let's just say David Flanagan, raw code, email address, and accept, like so. I will skip the second factor, and we are logged in. Now I am going to log out, just so we can go through the login flow. Where I can say login is GitHub, select my account again, and the job is done. So what was with that little intermediate step where we need to provide our name for the account registration? Well, we can head over to the Zitadel documentation where we have this optional section on the page called Configure GitHub as an identity provider. Now what happens is when we use GitHub as the identity provider, we can't actually create an account that doesn't have a first name and a last name. So this needs to be provided or configured by the user, or we can use something called Zitadel Actions. Now, we will be getting into Zitadel Actions in more detail with more use cases in subsequent videos, but I will show you how to fix this for GitHub right now, and the code is attached as a resource to this video. So don't worry about pausing it and trying to type it all down. Just copy and paste it. It's right over there. Now, they provide an example here, but as I use Zitadel in production for the Raw Code Academy, I have my own version of this with a few extra checks, so I'm going to use that. So we can click on Actions, we select New, and we give it a name. We'll just call this Get Update GitHub User. I'm going to paste in the code verbatim from my production instance. The only thing we really need to do is come here and update the ID for the external IDP. So for that, I can duplicate the tab, give it a moment. We can go to Organization, Login, Identity Providers, click on GitHub, and then the ID is in the URL. We can drop that in here. And you'll see that this is just getting the full name from the response from the GitHub API, the callback. It splits it on a space, which is a little bit crude, but we're just assuming that if we split on any space, we will get some version of the forename and surname. We do check the length of the parts, so we set 1 for the first name, and then the rest of it for the last name. And then if they only have one part, we just leave the last name empty. We can click Add. This saves our action. And then we can add a trigger for post-authentication to update the user, like so. It just means if we go to Users, find my GitHub account, we'll just confirm that this is the GitHub demo IDP, and we'll delete that user. We can now come over here and hit refresh where I should be logged out. That's good. So we can click register. We select GitHub, we accept, and we skip. No manual entry. My first name and my surname are set. Perfect. Now there is one caveat to this. You may have noticed when we clicked on Actions that it does talk about an Actions v2. So this is the original v1 version of Actions that we're using right now. There is a more sophisticated approach to handling events and functions within your Zitadel instance. And as I like to say, there are more comprehensive videos in this course as we explore the full feature set of Zitadel. So while I'm not covering it in this video, we will be covering it soon. And that's it. Again, everything is simple when you know how. You can add as many identity providers as you need. So go set up LinkedIn, Google, GitHub, Microsoft, Okta, Auth0, Stack Overflow? I don't know. Go nuts. The world is your oyster. In just a few clicks, you can have third-party authentication connected to your Zitadel instance, allowing your users to connect no matter where they're coming from. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, have a great day.